capable as the bean, whereas the bean was roughly about 2 litre. This was a lot smaller, quite economical. Again, above and outside of probably the average working man, but if you're a young single guy with a bit of money in the pocket and you wanted to press use of the vehicle, you could also, and we'll tip it back a little bit just to tip the rain if nothing else, you can see that the sun can be let in by that roof. If you're outside, inside the vehicle, you'll see it's changed a little bit, although the accelerator is still in the middle like the bean, as it was for that era. So this particular vehicle is my favourite, to be honest. So as you were moving on and you were moving up in life, you had your girlfriend or your wife, and all of a sudden you ended up with some children, where are we going to put them? That means we've got to change my lovely car. We've already thought of that. Come and look at this. So this is where the children would go, in the back. It was what was known as a dicky seat. Again, I don't think health and safety of today would really put up with that, because if you had a crash on the back, that wouldn't do the children a lot of good. So that really was a vehicle of its time. Again, the spare wheels on the back, and the tank once again showed the fuel gauge on the boot, which was fantastic when you were filling it. Not so good when you're in the car and you found out you'd run out of fuel because you got no gauge. So as we go around the car, you'll see access is quite useful. Pardon the rain, but there you go. When you think it's over 90 years old and we've had a bit of rain today, it's kept it out quite well. So I think testament to the build of the cars that they were. So once more, around the museum we have a number of vehicles around here, and AJS was just one of those vehicles. So these are the 2 vehicles we've been demonstrating on the TikTok videos, but we have plenty more. We have buses, as I said, and historic vehicles such as trolley buses that run on our red lines. So please come and see us at the museum sometime, and if I'm around here then I'll happily show you around.
So, for those of you that have just joined us, we're here at the Black Country Living Museum in Dudley today, and Steve's here talking about our transport. I know you're not going to be able to drive them today because of the rain, Steve, but people in the chat are asking whether these vehicles actually do drive and whether all the vehicles at the museum do move and can be driven.
A lot of the museum vehicles do drive, and quite a few of them are actually roadworthy to take on the road. Without little usage, we tend to park them more so than we actually drive them around, but they are quite capable and safe to drive around. And this one and the bean are used quite regularly, not only film sets but in sunny days.
Amazing. So now that we've spoken a little bit about vintage vehicles, and we've even come across an AJS vehicle such as this one, we're going to go and learn a little bit more about AJS and specifically about motorbikes. So thank you very much, Steve. I'm sure we'll see you in an opening video.
How the shop used to look before we ended up with it. And what we specialise in is motorcycles. Sunbeam, AJS's, they all come from the Black Country. Just like the ones we see on the photographs here, these are the actual factories in the Wolverhampton base. There's AJS and there's Sunbeam. You can see just by the photo how many motorcycles was going through each day. That's Artill's shop. Back in the 1930s, right up to the 40s, Mr. Artill was selling up to 15 motorcycles each week. Also, we specialised in racing machines as well. This Sunbeam here was built in 1929. It went around the Isle of Man race circuit. In 1930, the junior race circuit that is. Some of the photographs here are showing some of the team riders.
Could you tell us a little bit about the safety equipment the riders would have been wearing?
Certainly, the safety equipment was really non-existent. What it was a leather coverall, such as this one here. As you can see, the riders got on there, and on their head they would have what we called a crash hat back in that period of time. Now this is the team helmet. Now this was made of leather, and it had got some kind of shellacking on it to give it that crispy coat and shell. Inside it's got a leather skin. with a webbing liner. Now this helmet, as you can see, doesn't give that much protection, but back in this period of history that I'm talking about now, most machines back then, that was in the early stage where they was known as motorcycles, because they was really just as close to a push bike back in that period of history. And they relied on them just like we do with a push bike. You can see some of the actual photographs appear on the posters that we advertise. Most of the riders on them wearing cloth caps, or if anything at all.
I've noticed that this poster here, it says BSA, whereas you've been talking about Sunbeam bikes. Can you tell us a little bit about the difference between Sunbeam and BSA?
Yes, that's a good point. Now, the BSA, Birmingham Small Arms, that was actually manufactured, like I've just stated, in Birmingham. We only deal with Black Country bikes. But however, not contradicting myself, if a customer was to walk outside my shop and he got his second-hand machine for sale, he wanted to upgrade to a Black Country bike, we would take that BSA off him and then I would sell it on second-hand, but I would not specialise in BSA.
Amazing. And can you tell us a little bit about Sunbeam bikes, please?
Sunbeam bikes, well, let's start with the name first, the Sunbeam itself. The story was told to me, now I don't know whether this story is actual fact, but it's a good, interesting story. When he was making one particular machine in his backyard, after 2 months he said to his wife, "You know what I've made?" She got up out of the seat, just at that right crucial moment the sun was just going down, and it casted a sun ray right across the petrol tank, and she actually stated, sorry, "Well, look at the sunbeams bouncing off that tank." That's how the name was born. Now, the next bike is the AJS. This is one of our earliest models here, this AJS. This AJS, 1929 model, again, pretty basic. It's not upgraded much compared to the old push bike of its day. The motorcycle, as you can see, there's no lamp on it, like most of the bikes come today with lamps on them. So you would buy that from me as an extra. And this lamp over here, the sort of lamps you'll see, you have rear lamps, you have front lamps, and they actually run, it's called carbide by the way, and they actually run on carbide tablets. You would put them in, just on the top of the lamp there will be a reservoir of water, the tablets would sit in the neck of the lamp, the water then would drip into the lamp, creating the tablets to melt, causing the gas, you would light that gas, and eventually your lamp would get brighter and brighter as you go on. We also made the push bike Sunbeam. And the push bike itself, this is the old golden Sunbeam, 1936 model. Now this model is £7.19. Now this AJS motor machine here, as you can see there, we will sell you that brand new for £18 in 1930. The thing is, £18 back then was a lot of money. Now, if you can afford a fifth, you can have it as what we would call back in the 1930s on easy terms. That would mean you pay down the fifth, you could take the machine away with you, and you come in each week, depending on the terms I arrange with you, and spend the rest of the money down on the bike. Now, why would you think £18 was a lot of money back in the 1930s? Well, the average working man was earning between £1, 10 shillings, that's what he'd take home, his basic wage. Out of that money would have to come his living accommodation, his clothing allowance, his food allowance. You're going to have a lot left in your pocket to put down for a motorcycle such as this. Now just so as you get a clearer picture, let me show you what £1 10 shillings looks like. There we go, there's your pound note. Sorry. And there you have your 10 shilling note. So, decimalising that up for you, that is £1.50 today's money. The next thing Sunbeam was also popular at making was these little beauties here, which is known as an outboard motor. This outboard motor was made in 1931 by Sunbeam. Again, this is for a boat. The ocean, we live nowhere near the ocean in the middle of the Black Country, but we were manufacturing these in a large scale.
Amazing. Now, I've noticed on this AJS bike here, and I don't know a lot about motorbikes, but I can't see any like traditional motorbike gears on it. Can you tell us a little bit about how they would have worked?
Okay, well, this particular model is what we would call the suicide shift, because the gear lever is just there. So if we were travelling around about 40 miles an hour to 45 miles an hour on this machine, we would have to loose the handlebar just to change gear. Hence its name, the suicide shift.
Wow. I've also noticed that a lot of these bikes, not that one, but like various other bikes, are labelled in terms of guineas, not in pounds. Could you maybe explain what that meant and what the difference was?
Well, back in this period of history, when we're talking guineas, that means I'm selling it to somebody else. A guinea is £1, 10 shillings. So with that 10 shillings, I will take then extra commission. That's what I'm selling it for. So I would take the extra shillings, which is making up the guinea, as commission.
Amazing. And there's one final question. Do you have a favourite bike in this shop?
My favourite bike is one I spoke about earlier on, which is this racing machine here. Again, I'm a fan of classic movies, and George Formby back in the 30s made a film called No Limits. Some of you viewers out there may be accustomed to this movie. Now this movie shows some of these machines in it.
Amazing. And just before I leave, I just thought I'd leave you with this because it's what a lot of the comments are saying, and I thought it might make you laugh. A lot of our commenters are comparing you to Arthur Shelby. Do you happen to get that a lot by any chance?
I do get that a lot.
Oh, that convenient with you living in the Black Country as well. But it's been so nice to talk to you. We're now going to head on to Predy's Tobacconist, so thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Okay guys, for those of you that have just joined, we're here at the Black Country Living Museum in Dudley. The weather is starting to improve just slightly, but just so you can see what I can see right now. And we're just going to head to see what a 1930s tobacconist would have been like. Hello!
Good evening.
Good evening.
And welcome to Predy & Sons Tobacconists. Would you like to come into my shop?
Yes, lovely, thank you.
So welcome to Predy & Sons Tobacconists. And you've stepped back to 1938 in this shop. Now Predy's was a main chain of shops that sold tobacco and all products to do with tobacco and smoking in the Black Country at that time. And the company was founded in about 1868, and it grew in reputation for 100 years. Actually based mainly in Dudley, where the museum is situated, and they had branches in nearly every town in the Black Country and 2 outside as well. They would have dealt with everything you can think of to do with tobacco. So whether you were a pipe smoker, a cigarette smoker, you've got cigars, which you would have been able to buy at the time, snuff. You've even got roll-up cigarettes at the time as well. You would have had lighters you could have bought in here. We would have refilled lighters. You would have the lighter fluid in here. You could actually purchase matches of all descriptions, cigarillo cases, and all other accessories to do with smoking. Now, as you've noticed, many of the brands are brightly coloured, and there are lots to choose from. A lot more than we probably have today. So you can imagine the competition was very fierce between these companies. And what you might realise is that nowadays the packaging is not brightly coloured like this anymore because it was too attractive. It drew you to them, which was the idea behind it. But today in the United Kingdom, this is actually against the law if you're selling them. These aren't for sale, they are replicas, just to show you what it would have looked like in a shop like this. Today, if you went into a normal shop, they would be hidden behind shutters in Britain, and there are no advertisements on show either for tobacco. But in here, in 1938, we've got advertisements. So you've got this one for Craven A, which was a typical tobacco cigarette at the time, popularised by a famous film star, a man named John Stewart, and it actually says on the slogan at the top, "Believe me, you'll smoke them sooner or later." This bit always makes me laugh and always makes our visitors laugh. This one here. made specially to prevent sore throats. You wouldn't see that in an advertisement for tobacco today, would you? But they actually genuinely believed that tobacco was actually good for you. And this might sound laughable to us today, but it could still be a number of years before they really understood the negative effects of smoking. Now, in the 1930s, the market was growing for smokers, in particular women smokers. With this poster over here, the glamorous actress holding a cigarette. In the 1930s, about 80% men and 40% women smoked at the time. It was considered unusual if you did not smoke. Today, it's actually often considered the other way around for modern society. Now, obviously, you would have had different types of blended tobaccos. You could have selected whatever blend you wanted if you were a pipe smoker. You would have had chewing tobacco, things like Twist. There was also a chewing tobacco called Rowley Rag, which was named locally and was actually produced by Creedies. Rowley was the name of a local form of stone in this area. Now, obviously, with the competition, they were looking for new ways of trying to draw in new customers to each company. And one of the ways they did was with cigarette cards, which started in Gold Flake in the US in about roughly 1896. It came over to the UK in about 1898, and within a number of years, all of the cigarette companies were producing them. And you've got some very interesting ones. I have some examples here. So this one is called Speed. So looking at different vehicles from the time, and on the back of the cards it gives you all the information about each vehicle in minute accuracy. So accurate, in fact, that kids wanted to collect them and learn. So they became an education tool. And this leads me to another funny anecdote. If anybody's interested in Blackadder, in Blackadder Goes Forth, there is an episode where Baldric is talking to Lord Flashheart, and he actually explains to him that his whole family took up smoking so they could get the whole set of cigarette cards off him. Now that sounds hilarious to us, but really it's actually quite true. Families did take up smoking just so they could collect their cigarette cards for their children to put in these albums. I mean, this is another example here. So this is Kings and Queens of England. Beautifully printed, in fact, in minute detail again, and with all the details with the cards as well. But Kensington's cigarettes, which were these ones, they had an unusual version of the card which they liked to give out in their packets, and that was these. These are made of silk, hand embroidered, and on the card it tells you about each flower, where it comes from, its property. And the women used to sew them onto handkerchiefs. There's not many that survive like this today. And then this one here, which is also made of silk. It's printed on silk. These could be used by the gentlemen on their Their handkerchiefs as well. Again, not many survived today. So they are rare. So this brings me to another thing. That's
the 1930s, after war, we didn't learn from this. We ended up still importing 60% of our food from other countries, including eggs, believe it or not, even though we have them at home, on our doorstep, in our gardens, in lots of pens. Now, women used to work in the workplace to take the place of the men that were at war. So after war, women carried on, and they actually did work, and they were bringing in the income as well. So it brought lots of beautiful food to the table. We had extra as well. Now, the 1930s. I've got a sweet tongue. Let's have a look at some of the chocolates that were brought in the 1930s. So down here, we have a Mars bar. We've got Rolos, my favourite, Maltesers, Kit Kats, Smarties and Crunchies. Now, as you can see, these are modern versions, but they were brought in the 30s. Now, the 1930s as well, as I said, because they loved sugar, it was in absolutely everything. Now, have a look on the table. We've got jam, plenty of sugar in that. We're making puddings with plenty of sugar too. And also, they were very well known in the 30s for adding at least 3 spoonfuls of sugar to their tea. Very sweet too. Do you have sugar in your tea? I don't, I'm good. Now,